Well, it seems like Democratic lawmakers are on opposing sides when it comes to managing the police. And over the weekend, South Carolina's Democratic House Majority Whip, Jim Clyburn, said on CNN's State of the Union that he rejects the defund the police slogan. Listen to this.
Nobody is going to defund the police. We can restructure the police forces, reimagine policing. That is what we're going to do. The fact of the matter is the police have a role to play.
Well, meanwhile, on that very same show, Minnesota's Congresswoman Ilhan Omar disagreed.
Minneapolis unanimously just voted on a resolution that will engage the community on a one-year process of what happens as we go through the process of dismantling the department and starting anew.
Well, this comes as other Democrats in Congress are working on a sweeping legislation to make it easier to identify, track, and prosecute misconduct by the police. Joining us now is political strategist and Newsmax analyst Dick Morris. Dick, good to see you.
Good to be here, Lindsay.
All right. Well, this puts Biden in a very interesting situation. He either can pacify the far left, or he can appease those who, like Jim Clyburn, would say, no, don't defund the police. He actually wrote an op-ed in USA Today saying he does not agree with defunding the police. He's giving, if he wins, he would give $300 million to pretty much to not defunding them and help restructure them. So how does this play out for him in November? Does this help him or hurt him? Does this pull more swing voters over? How does this play out?
Well, it sounds to me like he's defunding. When he says we're going to not spend federal dollars on police departments that abuse people, he's saying that they'll defund those departments. And since every department has at least some instances of that, except maybe some small town somewhere, it means he's defunding. I think it's important, though, to go to the rest of the Democratic proposal, because defunding has received a lot of publicity. What hasn't is the idea that each individual officer, police officer, is going to be individually, personally liable for lawsuits brought against him as a result of his official conduct, civil rights violations as his official conduct. So it basically puts cops in the same place as doctors with med mal lawsuits hanging over their heads, but with no insurance to protect them and not the kind of wealth doctors have. A cop on $60,000 a year salary with $5,000 in savings to pay for his funeral is not going to be able to handle lawsuits. And if every time a police officer handcuffs a person or violently subdues them, after all, even if you're not killing anyone, being a policeman does require violence much of the time, most of the time. Usually not discharging a weapon, but physically restraining someone. You could be sued each time. Oh, he broke my arm. Oh, yeah. I've had sciatica ever since. And with trial lawyers circling over the head of the cop, like vultures, just waiting to pounce and get their 1/3 recovery on those verdicts, it would be hell for a trial lawyer, for cops.
You know, Dick, you mentioned in a recent piece that you've done that the president's instincts are not guiding him in the right direction with respect to law and order. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that the president sees this really as a struggle of law and order against anarchy. And I think that that's not really accurate. I think that there's a vast reservoir of grievance. I was recently speaking to someone who's a prominent Republican, and he said every single African American that I know, including exalted people like Condi Rice and Colin Powell, will tell you that they have been discriminated against in their lifetimes. And that's an experience everybody has. And Trump says, I've lowered black unemployment. Well, what good does that do if you're worried about your son being murdered? And I think the president needs to be more sensitive and more empathetic on that stuff. The one other thing in that Democratic bill that I hate is a registry of cops who have misbehaved, who've been accused of violence. Not adjudicated, just accused. So it reminds me of the sex offenders list, where once you get on it, you're stereotyped and stigmatized when you get an apartment or seek a job. And that's outrageous. There's no indication that they did anything wrong. That's just subject to an accusation. So those two things, the sex registry list only applied to police officers for violence, and the trial lawyers really make this a tremendously anti-police package, even without the defunding.
Yeah, I think there's also this whole issue that we've been talking about, whether it really should be addressed at the federal level or the local level, where it's funded and managed and overseen by mayors and city council. So anyway, look forward to seeing you later this week and figuring out what else needs to be happening politically.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dick. Well, the mainstream media and health experts are warning that COVID-19 may spread at an upcoming Trump rally. But mum's the word on concerns when it's going to any protest. Why the difference? Our company is going to weigh in next.